Hey y'all, it's K Divine. I wanted to make a video real quick before I go off to work because something's been weighing on me heavy lately. Been thinking a lot about like family and how much those of us who have had to go no contact with our family, like I don't think people really understand. Like people, I even like even my lactician had me and her were talking about this some time ago, and she was like, "Oh, it's a trend," and I was like, "It's not a trend, it's a movement. It's a movement because it's like people standing up and saying, I'm not dealing with this anymore." I'm not gonna deal with the unspoken rules of this weird family dynamic. I'm not going to sit around and pretend like this stuff isn't happening. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that the stuff that happened to me didn't happen. I can't push those things away and just say, "Oh well, it happened so long ago. It just never happened." And see, this is the issue. Sorry, my little twig just keeps sticking up. Anyways, I have a hard time with the concept of like just forgetting it happened. Like that was one of the things that I struggled with the most. That's why I feel like that's where the most of my mental health struggles came from when I was growing up, was the fact that my mom, like, we wouldn't talk about nothing. Like, and when I say talk about, I mean like in depth. Like, let's call it what it is. Okay? And let's talk about what really happened. My mom was notorious for, we would joke about certain things. Like when she got divorced, like over the years, before I disconnected from them, yeah, we would make jokes about, you know, their relationship and some of the things that happened, because it's sometimes easier to laugh at things than it is to cry about it. But we never had a full on family discussion about what that man's presence in our life did to us and how scary it was. It almost seemed as if my mom just wanted to bury it and pretend like none of that shit ever happened. It just seemed like she wanted to be like, okay, well, I'm not married to him anymore, so it's like it doesn't exist. And it's like, but it's like I feel like she failed to recognize the fact that, and I'm just speaking for me because I can't speak for my sister and what her experience was. Um, I know that she had her own struggles with it, whether she wants to admit that out loud or not. But I cannot speak for her and what her experience was, because quite frankly, her and I never talked about it really either. Um, but like my mom just really wanted to push that shit aside. And one thing I really noticed about, like toxic families is that when you go outside of the realm of, okay, I don't want to discuss, I don't want to sit back and not talk about this. Like I don't want to sit around and discuss frivolous things. I don't want to sit here and pretend like there's not animosity in between all of these people in this room. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the auntie over here talks shit about everybody, but nobody is allowed to say anything to her, because then we become the villain in her story. Like this uncle is a pedophile, and nobody wants to talk about the fact that he done touched half of the women in this room, and we're just supposed to be okay with it. And I'm not saying that all of those things have happened in my family. I'm just bringing up some examples of things that are happening in people's families, and a lot of these people don't want us to talk about them. They don't want us to be open and honest about them. They're like, why don't you come around? Just like, because I'm not about to sit here and pretend like these people have made it very clear with their energy that they don't like me, that they don't want me around. Like, and the crazy thing about it is that if you're the black sheep, but most importantly, if you're the scapegoat, because you can be a black sheep in your family and not be a scapegoat. And I'll get into that in a different video. But if you are the black sheep and the scapegoat of the family, especially if you're the scapegoat, you have to understand that your parents allowed you to take on that position. They allowed it. Because there is no way in hell that anyone can convince me that I can bring my daughter around them and they can be disrespectful to her and I'm not going to say shit. And the reason why, whoever you are, whoever I'm speaking to, the reason why you became the scapegoat is because your parent needed you to be the scapegoat of the family. Because quite frankly, they were probably like the scapegoat at some point, and they needed that pressure off of them. They needed someone to blame, and it had to be you. It was always going to be you. And I want to just briefly talk about that dynamic of the siblings. Whether you have only one sibling or you have multiple siblings, there's always a golden child. Okay, there's always a golden child, and there's always a scapegoat. There's always a golden child. There's always a scapegoat. The reason why you and your siblings don't get along solely comes from your parents, whoever raised you. Your parents have been pitting you against each other, whether it was your narcissistic mother or your narcissistic father, or both of them collectively, or one was just, sometimes it's that dynamic of the narcissistic parent and then like the passive parent who enables the narcissistic parent and doesn't want to stir the pot, doesn't want to, get them upset, like, well, just listen to your mama, or, well, your dad means well, those parents. I'm talking about those parents. They allow those things to happen. Okay, they are at fault. They are at fault for your relationship not being strong, because honestly, there is zero reason why your relationship with your siblings isn't strong as hell. Like, those are the people that you are the closest with, that you grow up with. Those should be the people that you are the closest with, that know you inside and out. It saddens me when I think about like the missed opportunities that me and my sister could have had if we only would have had people in our lives who supported us actually liking each other, instead of my mom pitting us against each other. Because she can say all day, she can make up whatever reasons it is that she doesn't like me. At the end of the day, that shit started when we were kids. That didn't just happen one day out the blue. I didn't do anything to her. And if I did do something to her, it was something that she never brought up to me. So I'm unaware of what it is that her true issue is with me. I remember when she told me some years back that, like, oh, well, I just hated you. And I was like, why? And she was like, oh, well, she was bringing up like little shit, like, oh, well, you were just really wasteful. And I was like, as a child, like, because I threw stuff away that I didn't want anymore? Like, what are you talking about? You hated me because I threw stuff away? Stuff that you weren't paying for? Why were you worried about that? And that sounds like stuff that my mom would say to her, like, oh, well, all she does is waste and blah, blah. Like, that sounds like some shit that your parents would say to your siblings, and then they're like, yeah, they do that. Like, we were kids. And she couldn't give me no real reason as to why she hated me. She just does. And deep down inside, she still doesn't even really know why. And this is the thing about narcissistic parents and siblings and these toxic family dynamics. They have to try to find ways to justify the reasons why they don't like you. And right now, I know they're utilizing this whole, like, oh, well, her going no contact. Well, we don't have a relationship with her daughter now, and it's all her fault, when it's not, because they have two very reliable people that they can call upon if they really want to have a relationship with my daughter. They can call her dad. They can call her grandma anytime. They have their numbers. They have been to their houses. They can come down to visit, or they can bring her up if they would like. They just have to set it up. But they haven't done that. I'm not standing in the way of their relationship. But they're blaming me for their lack of interaction because they want me to be the one that does it for them. And I'm not doing it. And I told them that years ago. She about to be 3 this month. I told her that when she was 6 months old, if not before that. It's y'all responsibility to be a part of her life. But anyways, the toxic family, like, they really want to try to push everything onto the scapegoat. Everything is the scapegoat's fault. Oh, well, all of our family trauma is all because of you. Okay. We don't want to deal with the things that we had to go through as children, and we don't want to deal with our own emotions, and I need an emotional punching bag, so it's going to be this child. And they pick you, and usually, like, you're probably the most empathetic of your whole entire family. You are probably the one that is spiritually gifted. You are probably the one that, you're the seer of the family. You see everything. They don't like that. They don't like that you see everything, because you seeing everything means that you have the ability to expose things that they don't want to have to expose. This is why they try to tear down your confidence in yourself. And because one thing I realized about myself was, I usually, like, before I really started trusting myself, I always had to go through my mom, or I had to always check with somebody else, like, do you think this is okay? Like, I never trusted myself. I always needed someone else's opinion, even deep down inside of my gut, if I knew, like, this is the right move. And I would let other people convince me of not doing certain things or not trusting myself simply because of what they said. And that's what they want. They want you to always go through them for your opinions. Like, they curated a person that's not even really you by breaking down your confidence, breaking you down as a person, making you go silent, abusing you behind closed doors, and then calling you crazy, saying that you're taking things too seriously, or, well, this was all your fault anyways. Well, you made me do that. Like, your parents will give you the silent treatment as punishment instead of talking to you and say, like, well, it's your fault that I didn't talk to you. Instead of them being an adult and saying, like, I need to deal with this on a different, like, it's so crazy to me sometimes when I really, like, sit back and think about some of the things that I experienced as a child. Because it's like, I didn't understand. And it's like, you blame yourself so much and say, oh, I'm just such a bad kid. I'm such a bad, I'm a bad daughter. I'm a bad son. I'm a bad grandson. A bad nephew, a bad niece. Like, it's my fault that these relationships are breaking down. At the end of the day, if the people who are raising you aren't teaching you how to communicate properly, how do you expect to have a fulfilling relationship with them? All they do is shut down when they're confronted with something that's uncomfortable. And they expect you to somehow have more emotional maturity than they do and come in and fix everything all the time. This is why you were always empty. This is why you never had any energy. Because you were constantly chasing after these people, trying to mend these relationships that they don't even really want. Because you notice that the minute that you stopped reaching out to people, who reaches out to you? Nobody. It's the same thing in friendships. It's the same thing with these jobs. When you stop putting out the first hand, when you stop saying, hey, let's have a truce. When you're like, all right, bet. If it's up, then it's stuck. And then they're like, oh, well, you're not going to apologize for what? I didn't do anything. That's when they start trying to make it seem like you did a whole bunch of shit. That's when the smear campaigns start. That's when they slander the shit out of you and tell people some of the nastiest things. And honestly, a lot of times the things that these people say about you are things that they have done themselves. They're telling on themselves and turning it to make it look like it was you doing it the whole entire time. And eventually these people will be exposed for the things that they have said and the things that they have done. And the funny thing about it too is that a lot of times the narcissistic people in your life, they expect you to go around either defending yourself or trying to one up them on the lies that are being told. And be like, oh, well, they did this, and that. And it's like, nope, I'm going to be quiet. And I'm going to let your lies do what they do. Because nothing that starts on bad foundation is ever going to grow. If you start a farm on shit foundation and you're not watering it, it ain't got no plant food, no nothing, it's not getting enough sun, you think that plant gonna grow? So when it's time for the harvest, when it's harvest time and people are like, so let's see what you got. They ain't got nothing. They have nothing to show. They have nothing to prove. While you've been back here building, working silently, you just watched my last video and y'all saw the Seven of Pentacles came out. That is a long-term view. The Seven of Pentacles represents you looking at something and saying, if I keep working at this, the end goal is the Ten of Pentacles, which is abundance. And that's exactly what your aim is. You want to have abundance in your relationships. You want to have abundance in your financial health and your physical and mental health. Like, that's really where your aim is. And unfortunately, you have people who are from your past that are trying to disrupt your present because they can't stand the fact that you got away from the system and they weren't. And especially when it comes down to like your siblings, part of the reason why the golden child, it definitely is going to turn against you is because they experience abuse too. I need you to understand that. The golden child is abused. Okay? They get praised more than you do, but at the end of the day, it's still abuse. For some dynamics, it's like emotional incest, and that's abusive, okay? Like, especially with those mother-son relationships. Like, I don't know if you've ever watched that show Smothered on TLC, but that's emotional incest. The way that some of those women were so hell-bent on being attached to their children. That's emotional incest. That's gross. They cannot be separate from one another, essentially. Like, they're attached at the hip. Like, they don't have their own lives outside of each other. That's not what relationships are. Relationships are, you are who you are, I am who I am, and together we are us. My opinions are my opinions, and your opinions are your opinions. And sometimes we share opinions, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we don't get along, sometimes we do. That's a real relationship. Not you need to be quiet in order to keep me happy. Or we have to think exactly the same way, and if we don't, there is no relationship. Then you don't love me. People will try to back you into these corners of being uh attached to them because it's like, well, we're family, so this is all we got. That's not true. You can create the family that you deserve. Okay? You don't have to be stuck. School bus. You don't have to be stuck with those people just because they want you to stay stuck. Okay? Toxic families really want you to feel like you don't know what you're doing. Excuse me. Toxic families want you to feel like without them you are nothing. And that you're never going to succeed or prosper without them because, oh, well, you need us. That's why they thought you'd be back by now. They're like, like I said, like I've always gone to my mom for opinions. Like, what should I do? I need help. Like, I didn't really need help. I was just afraid of making the wrong move and making her more disappointed in me than she already seemed that she was. And I realized that there was nothing that I was going to do that was ever going to make my mom proud. Never. I don't care how many degrees I got. I don't care, how many promotions I got at my job. There was nothing that I could ever do that was going to make her proud of me. That was ever going to make her not talk shit about me behind my back and make her love me. She just doesn't. And that's her business. She does not love me. And I'm okay with that now. And it's so crazy because I was just talking to my therapist about some of this stuff. And she was like, does any of this stuff feel out the blue? And I was like, no. This is very on par for them. These are all patterns. And that's the thing. Like, it's like y'all realize I'm 30 years old. I have been watching y'all all of my life. You think I haven't been gathering all this information on y'all all this time? You want me to be stupid so badly, but I'm not. Sure, I've made a lot of bad and poor decisions, but that's because I didn't love myself. And that's because nobody taught me how to. I had to learn how to do that shit on my own. And I'm so glad that I did. Because if I didn't, I would be in a way worse situation right now. Way, way worse situation. So I'm glad I'm here. Okay? I'm glad I'm here. But I really just want to talk about that real quick. And I am going to make a couple videos about low effort families because the subject's been coming up a lot for me, especially on my timeline. I'm seeing it a lot more lately. And I feel like I put my 2 cents in on it because low effort families are truly a phenomenon that I feel like are not talked about enough. And low effort families want you to do all the work for them. And this is why when you stop reaching out to them, this is when they start to panic and be like, hey, what's going on? This is when they start trying to buy your love, start trying to send you gifts, start trying to give you compliments. Oh, well, you're looking good. You look healthy. You look pretty. As if that's supposed to be enough for you to be like, oh, they do care. It's like, no, they've been watching you and they pay attention, but they don't want to really support you. They only want to financially support you when they can hold it over your head. They only want to help you with your kids when it benefits them. Otherwise, you're an ungrateful piece of shit to them in their mind, so that that's what they believe, so that they can feel better about themselves. I'm seriously going to do a video about low effort families, but I did want to just come on here real quick and just talk about these toxic families. And your golden child sibling was never designed to like you. And honestly, they're more likely never going to leave the toxic family dynamic either. You can have hope for your siblings that maybe one day they'll wake up and decide that whatever that they have been experiencing with your low effort family, that it's not worth them sticking around for it. But this is like the hive mind, like kind of cult mentality when it comes to families like this, when they stick together through their toxicity because they don't want the image of them to look bad. They want people to believe that they are a good family and that you're just the bad apple. That you're just the bad seed that disconnected because they didn't really want you there anyways, though. Because, well, yeah, that one's crazy. So we don't want the crazy one around because the crazy one makes us look bad. No, the crazy one tells the truth about the family and that makes you uncomfortable. The bad one tells the truth about the trauma that you all experienced that you don't want to come to terms with. Because that's the thing that I had to realize about my family. Like, this is how I learned how to forgive them, is that when I really looked at it, I was like, my family, my mom and her siblings went through a lot. Okay? And they think that just because I don't speak, like, I've thought about this very hard. They've been through a lot. They went through a lot as kids. They saw some things that they should have never seen. They experienced things that they should have never experienced at all. They lost a brother. They lost their father. They lived on the east side of Detroit, which was not the best place to live. They grew up in some weird times. They are a black family growing up and people try to pretend like racism didn't exist. It did, and they all had to suffer through that. I can only imagine the stories that they don't even tell other people that they had to endure. But instead of them deciding that they want to heal for the rest of our family, for the future, they just decided that they just wanted to pack that shit down. And that's y'all business. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that for my children. Okay? My kids are going to know me inside and out. They're going to see the good, the bad, the ugly. And I'm going to be accountable for every moment of it. Why? Because it's so important. It's so important to do that for your children. And if you're not doing it for your children, at least do it for your fucking self. You know how freeing it feels to be like, you know what, I went through a lot and I didn't make the best decisions, but I am trying to do better for myself. And I'm not mad at myself anymore for the things that I didn't know better at the time. I didn't know better at the time. I did not know better. I did not have the information back then that I have now. And because I have this new information, I am making better decisions. And that is what I choose to do. I love you guys. It's your girl, K Divine. I will see you later. Goodbye.